Is it on? Yes. Hi everyone. I'm a little nervous, so work with me. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I decided to do a YouTube channel because, like my mother, I love cooking, and luckily she passed down her legacy to me before she passed. So I just want to share some dishes that I love to make, some that I do on my own, some that I learned from my mom. So my channel will be called Cocinando con Julie because that was her name. And because I am her legacy, it will be named after her. So today I'm going to make uh, pepper steak con arroz blanco with white rice, bistec in Spanish. So I have my steak here. I already have the bowl to do it, my sofrito that I use to season my meat, and then we're gonna take out the rest afterwards. So I took out from my seasonings here adobo. You know, every Hispanic person uses adobo, almost every Hispanic person. To sazonarse, cumin, comino, and oregano. Um, I always season with these, using these four along with my sofrito, and then I love to put in naranja agria in my meat, with my meat actually. So I'm gonna go ahead, get started here, and then I'll be right back. Tomorrow I'll be making a video of everything, of all the ingredients I use to make my sofrito. Everyone does it differently, but according to all my friends and family that love how I cook, I'll show you exactly what I put in to make my sofrito, to either season the meat or to make the beans or make rice. Usually I would, before I used to make sofritos separately just for my meat, and then a separate one just for the rice and beans, but it became too much. Um, I make them a little differently, but I just decided to do one for everything. The only thing I don't put in my sofrito is cumin, because I only use cumin to for my meat, whether it's chicken, steak, whatever it is. That's what I use cumin for. So I put a little bit more of sofrito with my steak because the same seasonings that I'm gonna do with my steak, I use it to cook the steak. So we're gonna go ahead and throw in our cumin, a dash or two. I try not to put so much because cumin does have a very strong taste. So you don't want to put too much cumin because then the cumin just takes over all the other seasonings. Go ahead and put my adobo. Not too much because adobo is very salty, so you don't want your food to come out too salty. Just a sprinkle here and there. Oregano, this is what I love. I love oregano. Now, one thing I knew about my mom is that she didn't cook with oregano like that. I don't even think she used oregano at all, but I learned oregano from my, Dominican friends, Puerto Rican friends, and stuff like that, and it's the best thing I could ever use. Sorry, that's my daughter being a little spoiled. And her father's telling her no, so she doesn't like the word no, so she starts crying. sazonaste. I put enough of it because sprinkling it from here and using the actual package, it's a little different. It's actually less when you sprinkle it from the bottle. So I tried to sprinkle just enough for it. And then we're gonna go ahead and open this. Shake it really well. Ooh, because everything is concentrated at the bottom, so you just want to make sure you get all of it. And for my steak, I actually do use some cooking white wine. Just use a little bit, not that much, but I like using both. Trust me, you'll thank me. I'm gonna go ahead and wash my hands real quick. Instead of using the spoon to mix everything up, I like to go in with my hands. So now, go ahead and put everything in. So it's on my old pan. My mom actually bought this for me, a set of it, when I moved into my first apartment. So I just hold on to the things she got me because it's just memories. So I'm gonna go ahead and dry up the pan. While the water dries up, we're gonna go ahead and get started on the rice. Keep my rice down here. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and wash our rice. Now, I know some people boil the water first and then they put the rice, they'll wash it and then they put it in. But my mother taught me to just, if you're gonna make white rice, you wash it in the pot that you're gonna make it with, add the amount of water that you use, dash of salt, oil, and you put it to cook. It cooks the same way. I always wash it about 2 times just to make sure that I got it clean enough, but not that squeaky clean where it still has, gives the flavor for the rice. Okay. So we're gonna put this here for now. The pot is dry, the pan is actually dry. So we're gonna go ahead and add a little bit of oil. Because when you make bistec, pepper steak, you don't wanna add too much oil. It doesn't require too much oil. That's actually too much. I don't like using the big things of oil. Okay. We just want to lower it a little bit because before putting in the steak, to give it a little, you know, that brown color, I use, you know, I put in a little bit of sugar with it. So because the pan was already hot, we're gonna go ahead and throw in the pieces of steak. Now you could just throw it however, because it's all gonna cook together. So I do add a little bit of water with this. Even though the steak does make its own water, I like to add a little bit more because I like for my steak to be really nice and soft. I like when I go ahead and I put in my fork, it just comes off nicely. Without the struggle with being a little too chewy, stuff like that. I like to chew my steak, you know, where it's not too much. And I go ahead, I put it in. For those that don't know, meat itself, whether it's beef, pork, or chicken, the meat itself, you know, produces its water while cooking it because, you know, your body consists, 70% of your bodies consist of water. So it's the same thing with animals. So it'll add its own water in here. So just go ahead and move it around a little bit. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put in the top. So while this goes ahead and I go ahead and get the top and everything else, I'm actually gonna go ahead and get started with the rice. Sorry, I just don't like my pot on the outside to really be dirty. Because once I turn on the flames, then, you know, this part will get cooked and would stay in the outside part of the pot. I'm gonna go ahead and let that cook on high. My mother always taught me, as you cook, you keep on cleaning and stuff like that. So that's what I like to do. Normally, I usually always cook when there's no dishes in my sink, but I didn't remind my son. Just a few cups. Go ahead, just add a little bit more oil to the rice. That's it. And I use this salt. I actually buy the one that's much finer, that it's much smaller. So When I use this one, I try to use a little less than when I would normally use, just because it's much salty. It's more salty. So now I'm gonna go ahead, stir in the rice. I heat this bowl just so I could put my serving spoons that I use to stir things around, to keep it in there so it doesn't dirty my counter. And then we're gonna go ahead, put the top on this, and then we're gonna wait for the water to start drying up so I can move it a little bit more, and then we put the top, lower the flame on it, and we'll be good to go until it's done. So I'll see you back in a little while. Okay, so I'm back. I'm gonna go ahead and cut up the pepper and the onions to put in the steak once it's done. Got about half time to go more. I just turned the steak and it's still, kind of hard. So I'm just waiting for it to just, once I pick it up, it just falls apart so easily. That's how I love my steak. Some people like the steak chewy. I personally like my steak, if I'm gonna make it with pepper steak like that, I like it to be nice and soft. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna start cutting up the pepper. Now one thing I did learn, following the Food Network, one of the chefs actually showed how to cut a pepper the fastest and easy way. So you're gonna go ahead and cut the head off. And then you're gonna go ahead and cut the butt off. And then you cut it off easily where you don't have to worry about all the extra stuff. So depending how you like to cut up your peppers, I like to do them not too thin, but also not too thick. Just about the right size. So I'll show you. About this size is good. Some people like to cut them even bigger. Um, my family personally doesn't eat the pepper or the onions. I'm actually the only one that enjoys the peppers and the onions with the steak. So it's really, I put it in for them, for the flavor actually, even though the sofrito already has peppers in it. But I throw in some peppers for the flavor and for me personally to eat it with my steak. Go ahead and put it in the same bowl that you used to season the steak. I had already washed my peppers and onions before starting again. So go ahead and with the onions now, I like to cut off the butt. And my onions, I actually end up cutting it thick enough to throw in the pot. I like to take them apart as much as I can. They usually come apart. Every layer comes all apart once you put them in the pan with the steak. But I just do it so it could be easier for when I do throw it in the pan. I like washing my onions as well with cold water. It helps to just like avoid the onions making you teary eyes when you do end up cutting them. Thank you. So we're done. I'm gonna go ahead and check the steak. Just throwing out the garbage. I'm gonna go ahead and check my steak to see if it's enough, you know, soft enough to go ahead and put in the onions and the peppers. So, the way that I could tell is that I basically just push down on the steak with my serving spoon. I'll push down on the steak to see how soft it is. Many parts are already nice and soft, but then there's still, you know, a few parts that it's still kind of hard. So what I'm going to do, because the water is drying up, what I'm going to do is that I am going to add a little bit more water, so like that it could continue to cook. That's it, not that much, just a little bit, because I also don't want the steak sauce to be so much and watery. I do want the water to continue to dry up as it continues to cook the steak. And then when it's well enough where I see that, okay, the sauce is thick, the steak is done, then I don't have to add any more water, and I'll go ahead and add the peppers and the onions. So we're gonna go ahead and put the top back on. My handle broke, so what I do is that I use a fork to grab the handle so I don't burn myself. Right there, I'm gonna go ahead and check my rice. Move my rice around so it could continue to cook. Look at that, it's nice. Opening up nicely. Now these pots right here, the one that I'm using for my rice, I'm gonna put the link to where I bought these pots. When I tell you that these are the best pots I have ever used, I love them. I love them, love them, love these pots. You could use the pan to fry and it won't, you know, get stuck like how like pans like these where it gets stuck, where you have to scrape it afterwards when you're washing it. These pans actually just easily, everything comes off. You don't even have to use a Brillo pad to wash them. I use the soft part of the sponge, wash it real quick on the outside as well, and everything comes off so easily. I love these pots, are the best thing that my husband could have ever gotten me. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and take the top out again. So it's good enough. So go ahead and put in the, I'm gonna lower the flame a little bit so it doesn't keep drying up the water so fast. I'm gonna go ahead, add the peppers and the onions. It's gonna be so yummy. So we're gonna go ahead and cover it, just the most I would say like a minute. Me personally, I don't like my peppers and my onions to be too soft. It's like soggy. I like them to be still crunchy enough when I go ahead and take that nice spoonful of steak with the peppers and the onions. I go ahead and pick on it and I just go and I hear that crunchiness as I bite down. So we're gonna leave it at that. And then I usually love to add cilantro. Uh, us Ecuadorians, because I am Ecuadorian, 100%. We'd add cilantro to almost everything that we make. But my husband, he's Puerto Rican. He doesn't like, for whatever reason, because I know my Puerto Rican people use cilantro as well. He really doesn't like the taste of cilantro. You know, you mix it with like, the sofrito, or I usually, when I do burgers, when I'm seasoning the ground beef meat, I go ahead and I chop up cilantro and I throw it in there. So he really doesn't taste it. He knows it's in there, but to him, like, as long as he doesn't see it, he'll go ahead and eat it. But if I go ahead and I put cilantro in this now, he is not. He's gonna be so picky, picking it like a little kid picking it out. So I don't put cilantro in now, but I prefer to, because it's just that cilantro gives it that final flavor to it, and it's the best. I could eat raw cilantro just like that. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna let this sit here for about a minute or so. I would say like a minute, 2 minutes most. I did lower the flame, so I'm gonna give it just a few minutes, because I did let it dry up a little bit too much, so I just want the onions and the peppers to at least, the water from it to come out a little bit, and then I'll go ahead and turn everything off, serve the family their food, and we'll be done for the night. Go ahead and serve. I already rinsed out the plate. I rinse out everything, whether it's plates, serving spoon, pots, utensils. We rinse out everything. It's always good to rinse things out. This plate will go to my son, so that means he'll eat the onions, he just won't eat the peppers. See, it was nice and soft enough to cut up one of the steaks in half. Oh, let's put it down because it's actually kind of hot. We're gonna go ahead, try to grab some of that sauce, put over the steak, over his rice. He doesn't like too much over his rice. And this is the final touch. I hope you guys enjoyed my first video on my YouTube channel, Cocinando con Julie. This was definitely, my mom would use green peppers instead of orange. I just like orange and yellow. I have one, but it kind of got frozen in my refrigerator, so I had to throw it out. I just like, to add a little sweetness to it. Not too much, but it'll be good enough. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and just continue to follow me on all the dishes. And I hope you guys start enjoying everything that I'll put up. Love you.